You are now listening to Protecting Your Nest with board-certified family medicine and obesity medicine specialist Dr. Tony Hampton. For more, visit drtonyhampton.com. Welcome to the Protecting Your Nest podcast. Many of you who enjoy this podcast recognize that the Protecting Your Nest principles remind us that in order to achieve metabolic health, it's not just about reducing the foods that turn into sugar, like grains and starches, but we also must focus on other aspects of our metabolic health. Now, it's a new year, and it's the most common time of the year where people start to think outside the box and say, what can I do to improve my health? And one of the areas that our clinician may ask us to improve is our overall fitness. So today, I have invited a friend who provides, his clients and the people he shares videos with on YouTube some inspiration so they can achieve their fitness goals. Today's guest is Coach Bronson. Coach Bronson has been guiding and training people in health and fitness for over 10 years. He started to use CrossFit maybe at his 40th birthday or so, and then he quickly fell in love with it. He loved the variety, the community that was involved. So he went crazy and decided to start his own CrossFit gym in 2014. But he also recognized there's more to this than just CrossFit. So in 2018, he discovered that an animal-based lifestyle dietary pattern would be better for him to achieve his metabolic health and improve his performance. So he's working with many people in the area of nutrition and fitness to improve their health. He's the author of the Ultimate Ketogenic Fitnness Book, a complete guide to optimizing keto for a better quality of life, which is a cool title because I haven't seen too many titles focus on both keto and fitness. He offers coaching programs, one-on-one consultations, and he has a 10-week health and fitness challenge that he offers. And I've learned that challenges, I need to start doing challenges too, Coach, are very helpful to inspire and engage people. So with that, Coach, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Protecting Your Nest podcast.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on. This has been a pleasure. It was great meeting you in Costa Rica, getting to talk. I really enjoyed. We had like 45 minutes or however long it was on the ride to the airport to just sit down and talk about a bunch of different stuff. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was. And I'm glad I made it. I almost didn't make it because the airline, we won't name the airline again, but they canceled my first day. So I only have one day to hang out with the cast of Reverse Carnivore. Hopefully late summer or whenever that'll be available as we spread the message that eating animals is actually not bad for you. In fact, it's actually good for you. So I appreciate that. And I always like to, make sure my audience knows who you are, who, for those who haven't met you yet. So let's talk about, you telling your why. Why in the heck did you become this fitness and nutrition expert in the first place?
Thanks. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot that goes into my story. There's two pieces. One is the impact that my journey's had, obviously, on my own life and understanding. And another two phases, the life of someone who's gone through a change, and then the life of someone who's helping other people go through a change. So I've learned a lot in my own journey, and then I've learned even more from the other people that I've worked with and seeing what's working for different people and how there's so many different aspects to this. And it's such a puzzle piece. Everybody's their own puzzle. So in general, the journey started in my mid to late 30s. I realized I already knew. Right. We all know when we're not doing great. Right. We know that. Right. But something happens and we're like, oh, I'm not in shape. I'm not healthy. I don't feel good. Like, duh.
Yeah. Usually when you climb the stairs.
Yeah. Right. Well, for me, it was visual. And my daughter, we were at the beach. My daughter took a picture of me sitting at the beach. And I was like, oh, snap. Like, no, who was that dude? Like man boobs, gut, the whole thing. I was like, no, this is not happening. Can't be. So that's kind of what woke me up and said, okay, something's not right. The life that I'm living doesn't match the identity that I have, right? I thought I was this, that's not what I'm at. I'm actually at this, and I don't like that difference. So I need to make something happen. So I started looking at fitness as my first go-to. I've always been more, had a higher gravitation towards doing the physical activity stuff than the nutrition stuff. And Eventually found CrossFit around my 40th birthday, joined a gym, fell in love with that, like you said. And it really woke me up to what fitness was about first. That's the first thing that I learned, that fitness is about your body's ability to do things. It's not about how strong you are. It's not about how you look. It's not about any of the stuff that I thought it was when I was younger, right? I'm doing this at 40 years old. I wasn't worried about trying to get a six pack. I wasn't worried about trying to show off for the girls. I was in a relationship, like no big deal. It was just like, I want to feel good.
Yeah.
So that's where I realized that fitness was different than what I thought it was. Got to a point where I opened a gym, owned a CrossFit gym for a few years, had a pool party with one of my members, a bunch of people from the gym, saw a picture of me on the diving board. I was like, what the hell? This is the same guy from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in shape now. I can do all this cool CrossFit stuff. I'm the man. I run a gym. I help other people get in shape. Why am I not in shape? It didn't make sense. And then I felt bad. Then I felt self-conscious about, okay, I'm the guy trying to teach other people, and I don't look like what I'm saying I want other people could look like, or what they could do. It just didn't make sense. There was, again, the identity versus the reality was the difference.
That's right.
And so around that time, shortly thereafter, I was introduced to carnivore. Within 3 months, I was exactly where I wanted to be.
Wow. Just like
the
that.
Combination of a proper human diet with the fitness activities I was already doing solved every single health problem I had, solved every single performance problem I had, fixed every injury that I had, like everything that I was not happy with about my physical body, my performance, my health, everything was gone within 3 months.
I love it.
And then it's been that way ever since. So I've been carnivore for almost 5 years. And literally it took me 8 years, almost 8 years, to figure out that it's both fitness and nutrition together. Once I figured that out, I've been able to maintain it without even trying for 5 years. Like, I don't even try now. It's super easy.
It's kind of easy, and carnivore is very easy too. It's so easy to just put a steak in the air fryer or whatever you're doing. So it's and I'll be honest, when we were in Costa Rica and I met many of you for the first time, you got a healthy looking team.
Yeah, right.
People were looking good, man. So if it's not good for you, I can't see it on the outside, that's for sure. So I agree.
Absolutely.
I never felt better when I shifted to more of an animal-based diet, which is so weird when you were a vegetarian, all those years. So yeah. So and I guess, with the documentary, I think we all have our thoughts on what it should do. But what's your thoughts on reverse carnivore? What do you hope to, become the impact of that documentary?
Yeah. I hope that there's two things. One, for the people already in the community, I hope that they understand the message, and they get the message and understand it, that the only way that matters is what's working for you, where you are right now, and that's going to change. What's working for you now may work great for a year, 2 years, 5 years, but then at some point, something's going to happen. Your body's going to change. You're going to reach a different level of activity, fitness, goals in life, lifestyle. Something's going to change, and you're going to need to make an adjustment. So understanding that what's working for you now may not work for you in the future. What got you here may not get you there. There may be something that was great for you to fix and improve your metabolic efficiency, but now to get to the next level, that's not working. You need to add some exercise. There's a whole bunch of things that it's a process. It's ongoing. Don't be afraid to try things. Don't follow one person. Then if that stops working, then all of a sudden you don't know what to do because you're stuck to the loyalty you have to an influencer. It's about information and how you apply it to yourself. I think that's the number one thing. The second thing is for all the people that aren't in the space, that aren't already trying this, that the word kind of gets out and people start looking at, like you said, all of these people on here look freaking great. All of these people on here don't have health problems. All of these people on here aren't doing all this extra stuff to try to be healthy. They just eat meat and have fun. Like, it's simple and it works. And we've been doing it. We had people on there like me that have been doing it for 5 years, people that have been doing it for 6 months, people that have been doing it for 15 years.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. All of these different things. So I hope that there's something about it that gets people that aren't inside the community already to start going, wait a second, like the impact that the Game Changers had, or What the Health had, for the vegan community, I want this to have that same kind of thing and get people to start asking questions and being curious about what we're doing.
Yeah, and we are selling something in a way. We're selling an acceptance of a lifestyle that's helping so many people. And I know it's a transition because I was vegetarian, then I was low carb, then I was ketovore, and I still do a little ketovore periodically, but carnivore is where I'm most comfortable. And I'm gonna tell you, it's been wonderful. And so people should be comfortable with that. Like, it's
Sure.
okay to change. This is not a cult. You're just, do what your body tells. The only person you owe anything to is that body. So I
100%.
think that's really important. So I definitely want to touch on more fitness related thoughts, but I do want to go backwards a little bit to this animal-based dietary pattern. I know
Yeah.
you adopted it, but what kind of got you into that space? Because it's such an extreme thing for most people to us, just eat meat. It just sounds so insane. So what got you to that level? I know it was a little bit of what you felt, but tell me more.
Yeah, it was primarily a lot of things happened in that mid 40s timeframe in my life. I was realizing the importance of nutrition slowly around the same time that I did a 21-day sugar detox. I stopped drinking, but I was already pretty much whole food, paleo, Whole30 kind of diet, veggies, mostly like a lot of steamed or broiled stuff. I did broiled broccoli, broiled Brussels sprouts, asparagus, things like that. Lots of spaghetti squash, thing to replace my noodles because I miss my noodles. But so I was doing whole food, a good amount of protein, but definitely not as much as I'm doing now. Some meat, a lot of veggies. I did a 21-day sugar detox, didn't have any sugar to really detox because I was already sugar free.
Right.
So instead I detoxed alcohol.
Okay.
So I was come home from work and have dinner, chill out in front of the TV in the evening and have a glass of bourbon, 3 or 4 nights a week. Not a lot. I wouldn't do more than one glass, 3 or 4 nights a week. I didn't really drink on the weekends. It was just my kind of chill out in the evening thing. I stopped that for 3 weeks. That's all I did. I stopped that. I didn't change my workouts. I didn't change my diet. I didn't change my sleep. I didn't change anything. I lost 10 pounds of fat.
What? That's crazy.
On an in-body scan, I did body composition scan at a professional one because I had one at my gym. So I did a body scan when I started. I did one at the end. Lean mass stayed the same. Skeletal muscle mass stayed the same. BMR stayed the same. The only thing I lost was 10 pounds of body fat mass. And that made me go, what? Like, well, hold on a second.
Right. What's really going on?
What? Like what? So I dug into what alcohol does and the whole impact of that and all the different things. And then it got me thinking about, well, what else am I eating that's causing things? And so I started digging into all of this stuff, nutrition stuff that I'd never really connected the food and my performance, right? Because I also noticed that when I worked out, I wasn't sore. I slept better. Like I noticed a bunch of other things too. The weight loss is really what made my head explode. But then when I started putting some other things together, it's like, wait, there's other things that are happening that had nothing to do with my weight. What's up? So around that time is when I was introduced to Dr. Baker's interview on Joe Rogan about carnivore, right back in like 2018, whenever that was. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. The main reason why it was suggested to me was I had severe IBS, urgent bowels, and my life was pretty much controlled by my ability to identify the location of and have access to a bathroom.
Man, we got
that was my life.
Yeah.
Over like the anxiety level. And, a lot of people, I've lost 70 pounds in my journey. So not a little bit, but not a lot. Okay. I could never relate to somebody who has lost 150, 200 pounds. I can relate to the anxiety of living with something you feel like you can't control. Right. So it's a different thing, but it's very much similar. And I couldn't go on a trip. I went to the bath. If I had to get on an airplane, I had to go to the bathroom 4 times before I even got to the plane, just to make sure in case I got stuck in a line, stuck in security, stuck in my boarding pass, like anything. Like if I'm stuck somewhere, then I'm screwed. And so is everybody else.
Right. That's right.
You know what I mean? So that was what my life was. And within 3 months, I was gone.
That's crazy.
Going carnivore, that was gone in 3 months. And then I realized over the next 3 or 4 months, it took about 3 to 4 months for me to really start seeing the improvement in my recovery, the volume of workouts that I could do increased, my strength increased, my metabolic performance, my endurance and stamina increased. Everything started getting better. And then, you know, like I said, like that was 8 years into my journey. And since then, I just have, now I get to play. And this is the cool thing I want people to understand is when you get to where you're going in your quality of life, not in your weight, when you get to where you're going and being able to live the lifestyle that you want to live, then you can start playing with things and your diet is a little less important.
I love it, man.
Right.
You know,
The idea, the focus, I have a little diagram that I'm trying to perfect. I want to put in a post or a presentation or something. And it's, if you have a circle, right? When you're unhealthy, 80% of that circle is filled up with get healthy. 20% of that circle is filled up with live your life. Once you fix that and that circle gets smaller, it's automatically replaced with more live your life.
I love that. That's
right. And a lot of people get stuck in trying to live their life and make getting healthy fun. Guys, it's not fun, it's work. Right? Get over it, accept it. It's going to be work, but I would rather you do the work now and expand the amount of live your life in your circle for the rest of your life than be stuck fighting between the two.
Nice. That's crazy, man. Your story about your stomach reminded me of what my life used to be, and even with the plane concept, I remember taking a trip, and it was one of those days when my stomach wasn't happy, right? And so I'm on the plane. I don't know. We had about 30 minutes to go. Stomach's at the point where just can't do it. So and then my first thing when I get into the bathroom, I pray they got good vents, you know?
Yeah, right.
And fortunately they did. So I was able to, but with these types of stomachs, right, it's not just one time and that's it. Like you have to go back. So I went back to thankfully my wife, I'm like holding on to her like a baby, you know, praying. And I started cramping again, but we're at the point of the flight where we were descending, and I just didn't think that was a good time to go. So I managed to get off the flight, and it was another flight. So luckily there was a little bit of a layover.
Yeah.
And then in that period, I was able to spend more time trying to get my belly right in the bathroom. And fortunately for the second flight, it worked out. But who wants to live like that? Right.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's just
you don't know how bad it is until you pass out in the airplane toilet.
Yeah, right.
Seriously.
That's
Seriously.
crazy. And that's not what we should be doing.
Right. You go in the bathroom, you do whatever you do. And you pass on the toilet, you get up, you go sit down, and you're cramping sore. I don't know what it was, but I mean, when your stomach is feeling so bad, and then you wake up 20 minutes later and you're like, man, I passed out. You're sweating and you got all this stuff. You're like, what the hell is going on?
And I never have problems with my stomach when I eat meat. I just don't. It's a whole different ball game. So, and it's the perfect elimination diet. So if you're trying to figure out what's bothering your stomach, just eat only meat and then go backwards. The other thing that I appreciate, this alcohol thing. Now, I know a lot of people like to have that Chardonnay or whatever at the end of the day, right? And I understand
tannins are good for you,
right? It's good for your heart, right? And whatever, you know. So I'm not gonna beat up on anybody that does that, and everybody's not in the same metabolic condition. But I'll be honest, one thing I learned in my obesity training is that your body treats alcohol like poison. So pretty much your body says, I'm not focusing on anything, no other metabolic pathways, but the detoxifying that alcohol pathway. And alcohol, for some people, can stall fat burning for hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, and some even longer, depending on how much you drunk in the individual. So if you're trying to burn fat, you're pretty much going to stop that process when you're, so it makes sense when you're, as you kind of tell your story, why you may have not lost weight while you were drinking the alcohol. So I'm just glad you kind of figured that out. I want to circle back a little bit again, but I want to touch on your book. We mentioned your book as we started. Again, I said it was unique in that it talked about two of my favorite things, keto and fitness. So if somebody were to hear this interview, want to check out your book, what are they expected to learn from your book?
Yeah, they're going to learn that the process of improving your quality of life takes a combination of having a good mindset around what the process is and what your goal and lifestyle that you're trying to live is. They're going to learn that it's a combination of mindset, fitness, and nutrition. It's not any one thing.
Okay.
You can motivate yourself all you want. You can, post memes and do mantras and do all this stuff all day long. But if you don't take action, nothing happens. Right? Action is key. Life is an action verb, and the improvement of life takes action in order to happen. So it's all about the action you take. Intention is one thing. Action makes things happen. The other thing that they'll learn is not just that nutrition and fitness combined is the key component, but what type of nutrition, how to evaluate, is this the nutrition for me? What's working for me? How do I make it work? What's the right way to do keto? Mm-hmm. What's the right way to look at the concepts and principles behind why keto works, not do this and everything will be fine, because that never works. Anybody that tells you they have a protocol or a method that will work for you, you can just walk away, because that's not going to work for you. Mm-hmm. What's going to work for you is you taking control of your own journey and understanding why keto works, and then taking the understanding and applying it to your life. That's what I want people. I don't want anybody that's reading my book to think that I'm going to give them a step 1, 2, 3. Here's how you do it. You're done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, here's step 1, 2, 3. Here's how you learn about how it works. Mm-hmm. Now go play and figure it out for yourself. Yeah, because that's what you have to do. Too many people are looking for that silver bullet, that magic pill, that one person to just give them the answer. The problem is nobody can give you an answer, because nobody's living your life.
That's right.
You have to take control and figure out what's going to work. We can guide you. We can give you information about this is what's worked for other people that may be in a similar situation as you, to help you have better choices and maybe make take an option that's going to move you faster along your path without making as many mistakes. But if you don't make mistakes, you don't learn. So understanding that the avoidance of mistakes is going to set you back. It is going to set you back too. Too many people are afraid to make mistakes. And then on the fitness side, we talk about what is fitness, because I want people to understand that fitness is not, like I said, not about the six pack. It's not about getting big muscles. It's about what are the components of things that our physical body can do, and how do we improve all of those different components. Cool. So it's about how our body moves. It's about the physiology of our body. And this is one of the big things about fitness and nutrition. There's 3 systems in the body, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, Doc. Right? There's the physiological, the biological, and the neurological. Right?
Yeah.
You can do all sorts of nutrition stuff, and you will never impact physiology as much as you will if you're doing fitness.
I agree.
You can do all sorts of fitness stuff, and you will never impact biology as much as if you're doing a good nutrition plan.
Agreed.
Right? So those are 2 major things that have hyper focuses based on 2 different activities. Both of them equally support neurological function. Mm-hmm. And your neurological function will be limited if you're only doing one or the other. Mm-hmm. So that's what we talk about in the book, is that it's 3 things that you really need to do to fix the full realm of metabolic function, and you need fitness and nutrition to do that.
I think that's awesome. But before we even continue, for those who are watching, one of the things that you mentioned when you started your comments was the importance of, don't keep learning, don't keep listening to podcasts or watching videos and sit there with popcorn. This is not just entertainment.
Right.
Get the pen out. You must ask yourself, what's my 1 or 2 takeaways? And then act on that. Like, even if it's just one thing, what's the one thing I'm going to do differently? I remember watching a video, and I've mentioned this before. It said, waking up at 4:30, right? And I was like, who's going to do that? And I kind of do it now. I do it now. So I started that experiment, and lo and behold, I woke up at 4:30, and I just started accomplishing a lot of stuff. Now, of course, I made sure I went to bed on time, so I got my 7 hours. But I'm going to tell you something, man, that one little decision was a game changer for me. And I think everybody needs to be thinking about what that's going to look like for them. So one thing that kind of confuses people, because we tend to focus on carbs. If you're carnivore, you just get rid of it altogether. But the rest of the world is still focused on calories, right? So, obviously, if you reduce calories, you're going to lose weight. But why is it that we shouldn't just focus on calories because so many people are doing just that.
Yeah. The easy answer is because calories aren't really a thing; they're imaginary. The complicated answer is humans are simple creatures, and we need concepts. We need boxes to put things in order to understand concepts. So for most people, and back in the early 1900s, we had calories. Okay, great. If we do this, we can bundle everything into calories. It's a great way to do it. The problem is we are so much more aware and have so much more knowledge about how the body works now that it's a shame that the scientific community and the medical community hasn't stopped using calories for a long time now.
Right.
It's a shame. We understand simple things like we understand that weight really doesn't mean squat. Body composition is far more important than how much you weigh. The scale doesn't tell you if you've lost fat, lost muscle, gained fat, gained muscle, what's your base metabolic rate, if it's changed. Like are you hydrated? What's your visceral fat look like? Nobody looks at that stuff. It's a shame to me that every single doctor's office doesn't have some type of body composition scanner in it, or that every single doctor doesn't have some kind of affiliate code to get people to get a body scanner at their home. Something to make this information available and get people to start realizing that calories don't mean squat. So the idea of calories, and this is when I say they don't mean anything, people may be wondering, like, what do you mean they don't mean anything? We eat calories all the time. We got to measure our calories. Well, how do you measure a measure? We got to count our calories. We're measuring calories. Well, calories is just a measurement of heat. Calories is literally the same as saying Celsius or Fahrenheit. So how do you measure a measure? A measure of heat doesn't mean anything to the quantity of macronutrient we actually ingest. There is zero relationship between the two. So our body doesn't burn food as fuel. Our body utilizes fuel to function. Very different, very different. And if we want to get into the science of it, you should talk to Bart Kay and ask him to explain the difference between chemical energy and heat energy, and how our body utilizes chemical energy. It doesn't generate heat, right? We can't measure the energy that's created when we're creating ATP because it's chemical energy. It's not heat energy. So when we're using the energy from our food, it's a whole different process. Heat energy, in order to, just a real quick, my base understanding of biology and physics, right? Chemical energy creates movement through the activation of the chemicals in the biology and the myosin and how our muscles interact with all that stuff. Heat energy requires a mechanical apparatus in order to generate movement, right? Think of a steam train, a coal train, right? You create heat, then it creates pressure in a piston that then pushes the wheels of the train.
That's right.
We don't have anything like that in our body. Right? So calories don't do anything for us. Heat energy doesn't do anything. When we talk about heat energy, we oversimplify the process of how our body works. And two things tend to happen. Because we're trying to moderate fuel, we are now undernourishing ourselves. Because we're thinking about weight loss, we're not thinking about function. And because we're, again, thinking about weight loss, and we have to either work more or eat less. If we're going to work more, then we tend to overwork, and then we have overtraining, and that's where we have additional inflammation. We have additional chronic injury and a bunch of other things. So nothing about the way that we've done, and then we don't even talk about satiety, healthy mindset around food, and all the other different things where the process of getting healthy changes from doing things that support your metabolism to it's all about willpower, and if you're fat, it's your fault.
I hate that.
Right? Because that's the only solution that calories in, calories out can bring you to. It's all about it's all your fault. If you're fat, it's your fault. If you're out of shape, it's your fault. If you're not healthy, it's your fault. And that is so not true. That is so not true. We're focusing on so many of the wrong things. That's why people are struggling.
And it's sad that we've been giving the wrong information for so long. And some of us have, kind of made their, apology. Listen,
Yeah.
I remember one of the people that I follow on one of the docs on Twitter, he apologized for all the bad advice, right? And
Yep.
I agree with him 100%. So we have to do better, and with the right information. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I've seen so much success in my clinic, because of the fact that we've gotten the right information in front of people.
Mhm.
And so with this podcast, it's all about fitness, and I think you've convinced many of us, I was already sold, that fitness is really important.
Yeah.
So, but I have patients who are seniors who, when I think about CrossFit, it's a little intimidating for most people just to
Sure.
hear that word. It's like, hey, easy now. I'm
Yep.
70. What are you talking about? Then I have younger people who work in 2 jobs, night shift, and all these other things. They haven't moved their body in years other than the work they do at work. So how in the heck does a person get started?
Yeah.
What simple advice do you give clients when they're starting this fitness journey?
Yeah. The first thing is to set aside time and make it non-negotiable. That's the first thing. It doesn't matter what you do. I have people that I have worked with that I tell them, look, I don't care if you work out or not. I just want you to go to the gym and sit in the parking lot.
Right.
If you set aside the
Wow.
time, set aside an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, 45 minutes a day, whatever time you decide is going to be what you're going to do, go to the gym. If you're too intimidated, go into the gym and work out, go to the gym and sit in the parking lot. I don't care. Set aside the time, make it a habit, and just do that every day. And I had one woman who would go, and after the first week, she's like, well, I'm here. So then she'd get out of her car and she would just stretch by her car.
Wow.
And she did that for about a week. And then she's like, all right, fine, I'll just go inside. You know what I mean? And then eventually she got in. And then after several months, she's like, oh, this is awesome. I feel great, fantastic. But she made the habit and made it non-negotiable and decided to go do something. So
Nice.
that's the biggest thing, I think. Make it non-negotiable. Everyone, what about motivation? What about this? Screw that stuff. You're an adult. If you make it important and you make the decision to do it, then you're going to do it. You don't need motivation to go to work every day.
Right.
You don't have to get hyped up and listen to a hype speech on YouTube just to get in the car and go to work. You do it because you have to do it. You've decided this is what I'm going to do. Do the same thing. Right. I have a lot of people that struggle with that. And I was like, look, either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it, but you got to decide which one it is. And then if you don't do it, you have nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
Your decision. So leave it at that. That's the first thing. Second thing, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be something that is so overwhelmingly challenging that you're just like, the fear of getting started is just holding you back. 1% is what I like to talk about. 1% more than what you're doing now. Because remember, the goal is improving what your body can do in your daily life. Okay. Yes. Your training program should prepare you for the life that you want to live. You don't need to say, hey, I need to lose 50 pounds. I want to play with my grandkids. I want to move around the house. I want to garden in my backyard, and then look up a program for how to become an Olympic lifter. Right? You're not going to the Olympics. You're going to your backyard. Okay. That's what you need to figure out how to be able to do and feel good about doing it. So finding the thing that we talked about before, finding the 1 or 2 things in your life that you currently find limiting, make those easy. If it's walking up and down the stairs, if it's getting up and down off the floor, if it's gardening in your backyard, find things that you can do to make those things easier, and you will improve your fitness. If you can only walk up the stairs 1 time, try to do it 3 times a day. Try to do it 5 times a day. Getting up and down off the floor is hard. Do it until it's easy. When it becomes easy, then you'll find something else that you think is physically challenging, and then you do that until it's easy. Eventually, your daily life is going to be, man, what the hell happened? I don't have anything that I'm struggling with. Maybe I can now you get to play and expand, and then you can start looking at, what can my body do? And then you can start picking your own challenges instead of overcoming challenges that were picked for you. And that's where things really change, because now you're in control of the whole thing.
Well, that's not the answer I expected, Mr. CrossFit. So that was easy to digest. So I think for all those who follow this podcast, I think they'll be happy with that answer. And it's really, again, I'm hearing a lot of bio individuality from you. Let's see what's best for the individual. everything's different. Some people do carnivore, some people do keto, and some people do plant-based, whatever works for you, but you
Yeah.
need to listen to your body and do what's best for you.
Yeah. And this goes back to the concepts and principles. The concepts and principles never change. Where somebody is at is what makes the different options work for individuals.
Yeah.
That's the concepts are a fixed point in time. Where people are coming from is where the variation comes into play.
Right.
I equate it to a target, right? There's a target of life that let's call it optimal quality of life. And the center of the target is the best life anybody could possibly live. Everybody is at a different place on the target, but we're all trying to get to the center. Some people may be closer to the center than others. Some people may be on the top left of the target. Some people may not even be hitting the target. But we're all trying to get to that center. And as long as we're all understanding that we're all working to the same goal, who cares how we're doing it?
That's right. Wow. Now, let me tell you, you're definitely a coach. You sound like you may be an inspirational speaker. I think about, since I'm in Chicago, before Phil Jackson went to LA as the coach and then to New York to be in leadership, his coaching style, from hearing the players talk about it, had a lot to do with how you think. And I just think that in order for us to be successful, we have to think a certain way. My T and my NEST acronym is about how we think. It's also for trauma, but for purposes of this conversation, about how we think. So I guess I want to hear more about this mindset, why our mindset is so important to ensure we're successful as we attempt to improve our fitness.
Yeah. Mindset is important because it's everything. Nutrition is easy. It's just eat this or don't eat this. Yeah. Fitness is easy. Just do this or don't do this. Right. Doing it consistently is all what happens in your head. So your mind controls the whole process. The stories we tell ourselves control how we feel and how we perceive the process. The identity that we build for ourselves, that we are connected to in our past versus the one that we're trying to build in the future, is what holds us back. Okay. A lot of people deal with the challenges of connection to, okay, here's another, I like my analogies. If you haven't figured that out, here's another analogy. The process of changing your identity and deciding, what do I want my life to look like and how am I going to live that life, is very similar to breaking up and having a new boyfriend or girlfriend. You're dating somebody else new. Yeah. What do I need to do to make that relationship successful? Yeah. The problem is a lot of people are still talking to their ex. And they're still calling every once in a while. Oh, it's Christmas. Let me just call and see how they're doing. Oh, it's Thanksgiving. Let me just call and see how they're doing. Oh, it's Easter. Let me just call and see how they're doing. Oh, I know they had a birthday. Let me just call and see how they're doing. Right. And they tap into that old identity because they haven't let go of that old relationship. So the mindset of moving forward with your life and connecting to this new person that you want to be, because honestly, guys, the relationship we're talking about is the one you have with yourself. Okay. So the old you is your ex. The new you is your new relationship. Which one are you going to focus on? And that's really where the key comes into play, is you can't live a lifestyle if you're not doing the things that lifestyle requires. And that's all about what's in your head.
You're a coach, motivational speaker, and a preacher. Because you're preaching right now. That you better get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
You
exactly.
Can have a thrive. So I love that, man. So yeah, you got a whole lot of, I saw those certifications, man. I was like, it's too many to mention, but you definitely, you've been certified, and I'm gonna add preacher to that. So I appreciate that. Let's talk, we've covered thoughts. One more thing that's important to me is, the first question was, what's your why for doing this, right? So why is it important that people who are watching this episode find their why and never lose their why?
The why is the one thing that will keep you going no matter what. There's two parts to it. One is finding it, and then two is keeping it in front of you.
Yeah.
So finding your why is a difficult process. Most people do not dig into the real reason. And here's here's the thing. Like I like to use with my clients, and I talk about the 7 levels of why. In my book, there's actually a chapter that goes over defining your why, setting goals, all that kind of stuff. So it walks you through what are the 7 levels. And if some people need to go 8 or 9 levels to find their actual why, but just the understanding of how to find the one thing that's actually why you want to do this. And finding your why, here's how you know if you have a real reason why you're on this journey. If you talk about that reason, if you think about that reason, and you get mad, angry, sad, pissed off, happy, hopeful, joyful, whatever, if there is an emotion attached to what you're talking about when you say, this is why I'm doing this, now you know why you're doing it. You're not going to get emotional just saying, I need to lose fat. Nobody wakes up in the morning and randomly just says, oh, I need to lose 50 pounds. There's something that's been happening in your life for years that has led you to believe that if you lose 50 pounds, that thing will get better. What is that thing? Then why is that thing bothering you? Oh, that thing is bothering me because of this. Well, why does that even matter? Well, that matters because of this. And then just keep asking yourself the questions until you dig into something that just pisses you off. Mine is the regret part of it. A lot of it is part of the regret that I have in watching my grandparents deteriorate until they passed away. The experience of watching, like I talked about before, watching my grandmother on her deathbed, face down on the bed because she couldn't even lay on her back and breathe, and just saying goodbye to her for the last time, where she could barely lift her head to look at me, hold my hand, and say goodbye. That whole process. If I had known the things that I know now, if I had known them then, things would be so totally different. And I don't want anyone else to do that. And when I talk about that, I get sad, I have regret, and I get freaking fired up. Like there's absolutely no way. Like I want to get up and jump up and down right now. There is no way that passion is going to leave me, because that's my why. So if you don't have that, if you haven't found that, that's why you're struggling. That's number one. Number two, you have to find a way to keep that why in front of you. So once you find it, don't ever let go. It is the most important thing in your life. If it's a visual cue, if it's a relationship, if it's something that you have in your life. For me, there are things that I have pictures of my grandma around, but with me, I think it might be a little easier because I'm a coach. So I'm always talking about my why. I'm putting out content. I'm working with people. I help people find their why. So I'm always in touch with my why because it's my life. Right. And that may be what you need to do. Maybe you need to make your journey your life in order to keep it in front of you every day. So there's something to think about too. There's nothing wrong with being obsessed about being healthy. Absolutely. I would prefer people be obsessed with being healthy than being obsessed with what's on Netflix.
That's right. I love
You know what I mean? So finding a way to put what your motivation is in front of you every single day is the second piece.
I love it, man. So a lot of great nuggets. Again, if you're watching this episode, listening to this episode, what are you going to walk away with? What are you going to change? Are you going to, even if you just take a moment and define what your why is, that would be huge, because I did it a few years ago. That's when I decided teaching metabolic health. That was my why. And so I've been only aligning with that. So when I decide who to talk to, like yourself, I make sure they're aligned with that purpose. When I decide how I spend my time, what I accept in leadership with my organization is better be aligned with that. Because I actually recently decided not to do some leadership opportunities because it wasn't really aligned with my why. So you have to, I'm not chasing titles, I'm chasing my why. So thank you for that. And I think we'll wrap up with you telling us, what you're going to do in 2023 to help you protect your nest. What part of your life are you wanting to put more emphasis on or work on? Where are you going for the next year?
Man, I think the biggest thing for me is taking the time to make sure that the decisions I'm making are aligned with what I'm trying to do. That's I'm right now, because I'm still growing, I'm still very much in say yes to everything mode. But at the same time, I also have to be very careful and pay attention to, am I overdoing it? Is the thing I'm saying yes to align with what I'm doing? I have a tendency to just start doing things. I'm a speed of implementation guy. So I'm very much a shoot and then aim instead of aim and then shoot.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah. So,
I just got my concealed carry recently. I'm not taking your advice on that one.
so one of the things I'm working on this year is just trying to be a little bit more deliberate and intentional with the projects that I pick and kind of what I'm working on, things like that. Outside of that, I think relationships is a big thing this year for me, and trying to make sure that I build some good relationships, particularly among other people like yourself in the community, where we can have a common ground, even though we may do things differently, and make sure that we're not getting people confused by sending out so much different information, but that, even if our information is different, we're still sending the message that what works for the individual is always the most important thing.
Yeah.
So I think relationships, collaborations, and that kind of thing this year, and just being more focused in general about the decisions I'm making in my business are kind of where I'm focused.
Yeah, I like that, because if we tell people, because I have different guests, right? And they
Yeah.
have slightly different. I mean, the last guest on the podcast was more plant-based. We were mostly talking about intermittent fasting, but he was
Mhm.
plant-based. But he also was able to say, if what carnivore works for you, good.
Yeah.
So I just think that's the right attitude. So thank you so much. But let's share how those who are checking out this episode can get access to your book.
Mhm.
Obviously, anything else you got going, coaching,
Yeah.
challenges. But tell us
Right.
how we can get all that information.
Yeah. So it's super easy. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's Coach_Bronson_keto. Everything else. And I'm thinking about changing this, but I probably won't, because it's my IG. It's kind of business. It's kind of me. You know how it goes. But everything else on Facebook, on YouTube, on my book, on my website, everything else is Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness. So if you just type in Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness on Google, then all my stuff's going to come up.
And I love it, because even though you're more of a carnivore now, you're still ketogenic fitness. So it's no need to be too specific. We're just all about, we just feel that sugar is a dangerous substance.
Sure.
So we're just trying to, whatever turns into sugar, we're trying to avoid or cut back on, and that'll look different for different people. So thank you again, Coach,
Absolutely.
for
Appreciate it. Thank you for
hanging
having
out
me on.
today. And then we're going to keep rolling, and I appreciate you. And as we wrap up, guys, we learned from a health, nutrition, and fitness expert, and he really is in the business of helping us achieve optimal health. He taught us that we must focus on what we eat. We must focus on moving our body. We must focus on our mindset, right? I did an entire podcast, episode 14, where we talked about how we think. You may want to check that episode out, because I got some nuggets in that as well.
How do you remember what episode you did things on?
That's it's the carnivore. And that mainly because they mean so much to me. I have a queue. I have guests, right? But I have a podcast in the books just in case I need one that I do myself. So I think that was one of my favorites. And you're funny, but not every episode, but I appreciate that. I remember, Dr. Ken Berry, because when I first started, those were like my first guests. So I kind of remember those, but I'll remember yours for sure. So
it's been fun, man. I appreciate it.
It's all good. So guys, let's define our why. Let's start out the new year. We're going to reflect. We're going to pause. We're going to make sure we eat what we're supposed to. We're going to make sure we move, but we're going to make sure we define our why, because
Can I add to that?
Oh, please do.
Just don't be frustrated if you don't find it on the first try.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It could take weeks. If you plug at it, 30 minutes a day or a couple of days a week, like going through it. If you come up with one level in a week, that's great. If you come up with 2 levels in 2 weeks, 1 level in 3 weeks, whatever, consistently try to work on it. You're going to start noticing things. The more you focus on things, we know how this is. The more you focus on things, the more things start coming into play, right? The law of attraction.
That's right.
So if you start thinking about, why am I doing this? The more you think about it, the more those answers are going to come. So if it doesn't happen right away, don't worry about it. Just keep going.
Yeah, be patient. The key is that you're seeking that answer. And man, when you find that answer, spend the rest of your life doing it, and I love that. So as we conclude this episode of the Protecting Your Nest podcast, if something resonates with you and you want to share with us, put it in the comments, because you may resonate with somebody else who needs to hear your thoughts. We're just two guys chatting, but your thoughts are going to be important as well. So And always remember, we're all in this together, and sharing your story is so important as we kind of have this grassroots effort to improve the metabolic health of all those who hear our voices. So thank you for checking out this episode. And until the next episode, continue to be safe, be well, and continue to protect your nest. You've been listening to Protecting Your Nest with Dr. Tony Hampton. For more, visit drtonyhampton.com.